It's Wednesday, March 20th, Thursday, March 21st, if you're on the East Coast, across the pond, or down under. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, wherever you may be, including Deep Talk Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Go shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store. It's a great way to support what we do, and read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel in Suho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Head to our website, click on the Suho banner, and subscribe today. The third Wednesday of every month, we do a show around here called Ghosts of the Great White North, where we tap into the stories of hauntings and other weird and strange tales that you may not have heard about. We are joined tonight by Morgan Knudsen from Haunted Hospitals and Paranormal 911 television shows. Mike Morin from Haunted Crew of Canada has taken the night off, so he's out chilling, relaxing. So tonight we are going to embark on virgin territory. What does that mean when it comes to the paranormal? And if you're someone who wants to start investigating but don't know how or where to start, we're going to get into that too and so much more. Then in the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Morgan Knudsen, always a pleasure to have you on. Too bad Merle isn't here, but it is what it is. We got a show to do. How you doing?
I am doing amazing, and, well, every month I look forward to this, so this is great.
Me too. I look forward to having you guys on as well. So, Mike, what's happened there is he has a buddy visiting from Australia. So he's out hanging out with him tonight, and, he doesn't get much chance to see his friends, so that's what they are doing. And so we decided to give Mike the night off for that one, but he'll be back next month as well. Morgan, there's a lot of people out there who would listen to this show for the first time. Let's learn a little bit about you. How did you get involved in the paranormal?
Well, my great-great-grandfather founded the first paranormal association in Canada, and he has been a great inspiration to me over the years. He was a very noted physician in Ontario, and but the funny thing is that I didn't actually know about that until about 6 years into my career with Entity Seeker Research and Teachings, which is the organization that myself and Stephanie Wirtz founded in 2003. And it's funny how sort of the legacy had kind of creeped in without me having too much of a say in it. But so that's how it started with me. But I had some phenomenal experiences when I was a kid, and I just couldn't. I knew there was something more to it, and it absolutely fascinated me. So I couldn't put it down, and that just became my life after that. So.
Well, you know what? We all have our own experiences or our own interests as to why we get into this field. And if my voice sounds a little bit hoarse right now, it's because I was just on Goof On Radio with Rich Giordano, and we were debating very loudly for about an hour and 45 minutes about Bob Lazar and whether or not his story is real. I was taking the fact that I believe Bob Lazar's story. Rich does not, and we went at it. There were steel chairs, ladders, tables being broken, foreheads are cut up. It was an all-out WrestleMania-type brawl, so it was pretty fantastic when we got to it. But nonetheless, we still got to do what we got to do around here. So with your experiences and knowing that you have this family background regarding this, did this all come very naturally to you, or was it something that you had to grow into?
It was funny because I think it came relatively naturally, as naturally as this stuff can happen. But Stephanie and I, we really kind of put our childhoods on hold and at the time, and spent our nights just studying and studying. I mean, we didn't even go to prom, right? Like it was crazy. But we were so absorbed in the factual understanding of where science has led to this, and where, what experiences that people have had. And that's how we ended up developing our program, Teaching the Living, which is a really specific program to deal with clients and different entities and help them develop a better relationship with non-physical. But it came about, I think, in the most natural way this stuff possibly can.
So when you started having these experiences and you started rolling with it and wanted to check this out, a lot of people out there do not have the ability to make a career of this or to make this that much of a focus in their lifestyle. You know, a lot of people, when they hit their mid to late 20s, 30s, you know, school is wrapped up, college is wrapped up. You're looking for potentially, you know, your partner who you're going to shack up with the rest of your life, or at least the first one, maybe two, maybe three. You never know with it these days, but there's a lot that goes on outside of life, but you seem to remain so focused on the paranormal. Why is that?
I really am passionate about the teaching angle of it. And that's really where my focus began to lie, because I think once Stephanie and I discovered that we could find patterns in some of the behaviors, and we were noticing that there was such a deep relationship between the type of activity people were experiencing and the emotional state that these people were in. Once we began to make that correlation, it became a real passion for us, not even so much about the paranormal, but getting people to live their best life. And so it became very much one and the same thing for us. So yeah, it's been really interesting for me, because I mean, I've got, you know, other hobbies and stuff like that I do, but my work has really become my passion. And so, you know, doing the lecturing and getting presentations and whatnot together that people can sit down and absorb, that are entertaining and fun and engaging, but still provide really accurate information. And that's something, and I mean, I love being on stage. I love speaking. I love doing all of that. So this has just become, it really has wrapped up all my passions into one thing.
So for you, you knew the direction you were going in, but there's a lot of people out there, Morgan, who have no understanding of how the paranormal works. They know they watch the television shows, or they listen to shows like this, or read up on as much paranormal or YouTube channels that they can get a grasp of. And it's something that they want to do, but they may not know how. In your time as a paranormal investigator, how many rookies have you had the pleasure of teaching?
Quite a number at this point. It's interesting, because when they start out, a lot of people, they really begin in a way that is rather on the dysfunctional side, because their education has come from ghost hunting type shows where the media has, you know, facilitated experiences or faked occurrences or whatever. So they're not getting the legitimate parapsychological approach to how to study these things. You know, they're wandering into cemeteries with video cameras and stuff like this. So oftentimes it's a bit of a shocker for them to realize that that's not actually the reality of how you deal with this stuff. And it's interesting to meet with them, because either they jump on board with the fact that they really love the idea that, you know, there's more to it than what they're watching, or they're kind of disappointed because they're thrill seekers. So you kind of get one or the other.
And that's really a tough brand, because a lot of people don't know what they are getting into in regards to this. They have no clue what it actually means or what it stands for. Like you said, there's a lot of thrill seekers out there, which is fine and dandy. You can be that. But a lot of people also don't understand there is a heightened level of danger to what this is as well.
Absolutely. And the thing with these investigations, you know, depending on where you're going, it's dangerous on a multi-stage level, because, you know, if you've got these places, for example, we have an Edmonton hospital here called the Charles Camsell, and it's notorious for its history and its haunted history. But people were in and out of this place all the time. They were trying to break into it because it was an abandoned hospital and whatnot. And I've talked to numerous first responders who have pulled bodies out of there because people have fallen through the floor. They've gone in there just ridiculous. And so it was really. It's been really difficult to try to curb that with people. It's like, you can't be doing this. And some people just don't understand that. So there's that aspect of it. But then you've got on top of it, these individuals that are going into people's homes and they're wandering around and just being, wanting that scare. And you've got people that genuinely need help. And that's not good. You can't be that trustworthy. If you're running around and screaming, and people need stability.
Is it a rush to get into that, though? And I guess what I'm asking is, for a lot of these new people, they come into the field, all right? They can't tell a ghost from a dog barking at the neighbor's house 5 houses down. And in the meantime, what they see on television, what they see on social media and other platforms is people helping people. Because there's always a reason. Like you said, there's the thrill seekers. There's the people who want to help out other people or businesses. There's the people who just want their own questions answered. There's a multitude of answers out there as to why people do this. But are we rushing into helping people because that's the obvious next step?
Well, and the darn thing is that, you can't help people if you're not helping yourself. And a lot of these people, you'll get into a situation like this and they haven't dealt with their own stuff enough to step up and help others. And you got to start wondering too, okay, what qualifications do you have that you're bringing to the table that you can actually assist people? Because, if you've got a bunch of your buddies that are just coming over to do whatever, that's not helpful. You got to have, if you're bringing resources to the table that matter, like whether you've got, a background as an architect or an electrical engineer or, whatever it is for you, what are you bringing to the table that is going to serve this person going forward? So I think that's an aspect of it as well.
Explain that. Go into detail a little bit more about that, because I think there's a lot of people out there who may not comprehend with what you're trying to relay.
Sure. Yeah. I think when a lot of these sort of amateur investigators, they want to put together a team or something like that. And usually it starts with, okay, well, these are my closest friends and this is what we're interested in. And ultimately people have to understand the gravity of the situations that these clients are facing. And it's not something they often take into account. They're so busy looking for some sort of supernatural activity. They forget the fact that these people may have sold their home. They might be going broke. They've been trying to move all over the place, trying to get away from the occurrences. You've got people that are in trauma because they've lost a loved one. You've got some serious issues going on, or business owners, for example, who have, they're about to go give up their business or go bankrupt or whatever. And, it can't just be a bunch of your buddies that go in looking for a ghost. It's got to be more cohesive than that. So if you can't deliver answers to the people that are asking you for assistance, that's a real problem. People negate the idea that they're more than just looking for video evidence. People are looking for solutions.
And that's when you're dealing with people on that end. But a lot of times, if you're doing it right and you're learning and you're wanting to go through these investigations, it's about sitting back and learning your skill before you can help anybody else. You have to be able to help yourself. You got to be able to know what you're doing. It's much like driving.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we get a learner's permit, or there's driving school. And I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but here in British Columbia, they've actually, cut down quite a bit on young drivers. So instead of having, like when I started driving, you had your learner's license for 3 months, and then you did your test for your drivers. Now you have to have your learner's license for a year. And there's a limit to how many people could be in the vehicle at the same time the learner is driving. And that's kind of the way it should be for ghost hunting, because we don't know what we're dealing with. We're beginners.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the damn thing is there is no regulation right now. The UK has had a little bit of a start on it, where they're beginning to sort of regulate the idea of psychic mediums and charging and things like this. And even in New York, you're not allowed to charge for psychic readings or mediumship type things. It's illegal. So unless that's changed recently, but I don't think so. And so they're starting to kind of curb it, but there is no set of standards. And you've got these institutions, like good institutions like the Windbridge Institute, that are stepping forward, and they're scientifically testing some of these people and providing, like, they have a list that they're providing to people of mediums that have been scientifically tested. And so it's coming around, but there's still just a plethora of people that have just put up a website and say they can do this.
Well, and that's the big thing. The public doesn't know that, though. The public is not educated. It's the same thing in UFOs or cryptids. We're just looking for anybody who has an interest. Oh, there's the first one on Google. Let's click on them. Let's check them out and give them our reference. I mean, that's the way it was before I knew about all of this. That's the way it was with my UFO sightings. Was I called them into UFO BC. Mm-hmm. I called 3 of them in. I got 1 phone call back. 1.
Yeah, I know.
And that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And and the lack of response too. It's a problem in this field as well. And I mean, God knows I try to keep up on my emails as best I can. I'm sure I've missed a few, so I apologize to anybody out there who I've missed. But it is tough to get a reply, and I think some of the time it's because they don't know what to do. These people, they'll get a report in. And I mean, some of the emails that you'll get are they're heartbreaking. These people, they don't know what to do, and they're, please help me, and nobody's been able to help me, or, people have charged me all this money and now I can't pay, I can't pay for more help, or, just heartbreaking stuff like that, where people have been used and abused, and the stakes are really high for them. So, it's really, really hard, but it's one of those things where people almost have to approach investigators in the same way that you'd approach a contractor. It's like, who are your references? What background do you have? Where, you got to ask the hard questions.
True that. But when it's something like this, I mean, you want to keep it as quiet as possible. You don't want your name going around because people are still embarrassed about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons, like, even when I'm taking cases or anything like that, there's no logo on the side of a vehicle, or, there's none of that. It's just, you got to keep it as hush hush as you can, because people get real funny. And depending on what neighborhood you're in too, a super religious neighborhood, for example, is going to treat it possibly differently than a neighborhood that, is more spiritual, or even a neighborhood that may be leaning more towards atheist might, take it a different way. So, you got to be always really conscious of that.
Well, I mean, that brings up a good point, because I know with Mike's team, and this is one thing Mike and I have talked about a number of times, with Mike's team, they don't go in with the T-shirts. They don't go in with their vehicles posted about their paranormal team. They go in very casual, very quietly, because a lot of people, including the neighbors, may not be comfortable with that. And everybody, the one thing that we can agree is all homeowners are very, very concerned about their property value.
Yeah, business owners, is Alberta as well. Business owners have a real concern about that, where, it's funny because you go travel to a place like California or whatever, and the attitude is very different. They are very excited about the idea that, there may be some sort of spirit activity, and, they want to know about it. They want to promote it, and they're interested. Like the Queen Mary, for example, I mean, they've got probably 4 or 5 shows running at any given time, just to talk about the history of the Queen Mary and the spirits there. But with it, in Alberta as well, they see it as a detriment to the business. So they're very, very cagey about it, and they don't want it out.
Why is that? Why is that old school attitude still out there, that people are afraid to talk about it? If you got an old tavern that glasses go flying off the shelves, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to bring promotion to that. Heaven forbid.
It's funny. I don't know whether that's a cultural thing, or whether it's just, how we've grown up maybe in Canada compared to, how they're looking at it in the US. But I've always found, or at least in Alberta, just in general with various opportunities, is that any sort of new or change or anything outside the box it's a difficult sale to make. And they are very rooted often in what they know. And as soon as you're sort of branching out in any way outside the box, that becomes a problem. And I've noticed that as a sort of a general mentality in a number of Canadian cities that I've gone to, where in America, it's a little bit different. The culture is very supportive of the idea that, okay, this place is haunted and, we want to celebrate it. But yeah, it's not celebrated in Canada in the same way. It's really interesting.
Well, you know what, to make mention of that too, Canada is not a very, very well-versed country in the history. History doesn't seem to mean much here. And I mean that with all due respect to my fellow Canadian citizens, but we're not about looking into the past. We're about looking into the present and the future and moving forward, whereas our American brothers and sisters, they're very proud of their past. They are very proud of how they became a nation and their history and what it took to get to today's United States of America. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm a little jealous about that because I love Canadian history. I wish we knew more about it. And, I can tell you right now, and a lot of our American listeners would probably scratch their head on this one, but for the majority of Canadians, we sure as heck know who George Washington is over John A. Macdonald. And
you make
that's sad.
Yeah, you make a really good point with that, because that is definitely the case. I know I've got a sort of a classroom that I do with students where we take them around in a limo bus and we take them to different haunted places, and it's interesting to see as we're going to these different locations, because many of them are quite historical to Alberta. They have no idea these places are even there. And it's amazing how many of the people that I teach that are immediately go, oh my God, I drive by this every day and I never noticed it. And then you start talking about the history behind it and they've got no idea. So I think you're right. That lack of education is just, it's really pervasive in Canada.
Absolutely. And we only got about 40 seconds here before we have to go to break. And, we could sit here and gush over the historical side of everything, but in regards to hauntings, we are going to continue on after the break in the bottom of the hour with new investigators. What should they be doing? What should they be looking for? What kind of gear should they be using? Do they need to go all high tech and fancy, or is it more than that? So, Morgan, I'm very excited to get you in on that. Morgan Knudsen is here for Ghosts of the Great White North. Mike Morin, we've given him the night off from Haunted Crew of Canada. He's got a buddy in town from Australia. So Mike's enjoying the time with him, and we're all going to have some fun here as Ghosts of the Great White North happens the third Wednesday of every month here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back with the second half hour right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, feeling good after my victory in the big debate with Goof on Radio on his YouTube channel with Rich Giordano. I still feel pretty darn good over that. But nonetheless, we still have a show to do tonight. Remember, a good way to support what we do here on Spaced Out Radio is by going to our Spaced Out Radio store on our website, click on the shop tab, get yourself a t-shirt, hat, hoodies, coffee mugs, you name it, we got it. It's a great way to support what we do. Ghosts of the Great White North happens the third Wednesday of every month. We've given Mike Morin from Haunted Crew of Canada the night off, so we are just joined by Morgan Knudsen. We are talking elementary school here when it comes to the paranormal. Morgan, welcome back.
Of course, still here.
So there's a lot of people out there who want to test this out. How would you tell somebody to get started?
I think the first thing I did was just start reading. Pick up the paper, pick up the research papers from good institutions. Like, for example, Princeton has a parapsychology lab that's amazing. You can get the papers from them. Northampton University. People, even doctors that are noted in the field, people like Dr. Cal Cooper, investigators like Lloyd Auerbach, Carrie Gaynor. There's so much out there. And one website that I recommend frequently to people is called the Psi Encyclopedia. And it's a website that was put together by journalists, essentially, freelance journalists, on the papers and the history of parapsychology all over the world. And it's things like that I highly recommend people delve into, because that's where I started, was just picking up the papers, picking up the research, getting away from the media driven stuff, and really start to delve into the meat and potatoes of what this research is about.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you have someone who is just learning, and you tell them to go do the research, stay away from the television shows. Though there's good tips on there, but it's not the way to do that, because a lot of people don't understand, especially from the background. And I know this from the ghost tour that I run up here. A lot of people think that there's always something happening. There's always something every time you go around a corner. There's a ghost hiding there waiting to jump out and say boo. It's not that way. It takes time. It takes patience more than anything. And this is what a lot of people out there don't understand.
Yeah, and the damn thing is this stuff is a waiting game, and nothing happens every single time, which is part of the reason why these ghost hunting shows and whatnot run into trouble, because they think that that's what it's going to look like, and then of course they get in there and they realize, wow, nothing actually happens every single episode or every single time we do a location. And that's, I think, where some of the trickery and the hoaxing and that kind of thing starts, because they don't know what to do with that. And if you're going in with the idea that this is going to be exciting and eventful, there are locations that are amazing and will blow your mind, but sure as hell not all of them.
So if you're a rookie wanting to get into this, do you contact a team that's maybe looking for investigators? Do you contact someone to learn? Because a lot of people don't want to learn on their own, Morgan. They want to learn from someone else who already has that experience. Yeah,
absolutely. And probably one of the best things that I've done, and I still attend them, are the massive online classrooms, the MOOCs that you can get into. There's one that's I prize every year. It's called ParaMOOC, and that one is run by amazing professor, Dr. Nancy Zinroni, and her husband Carlos, and they are absolutely phenomenal. They assist with the Parapsychology Foundation. And it is absolutely amazing because they bring in speakers from all over the world. Everyone from, Dr. Ed May, who ran the Stargate Project, to Dr. Morris Friedman, who's one of the neurologists at the Toronto University, Dr. Cal Cooper, all sorts of people that you can learn from. And the nice thing is that not only are you learning with people from all over the world, but you're also learning with people that are of every skill level. So you'll have people that will join, that have been doing this for 20 years, but then you've got people that are brand new to the subject. So it's a really nice atmosphere, and you can ask questions and all of that. And all you need is an internet connection. It's free.
In the field, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. That's where it gets a little bit more dangerous, where people don't know what they're talking about. Yet people out there, and I've seen it myself, whether it's their first investigation or their 10th investigation, they go out there and they have all the answers. They are able to break down every sort of haunting you can name, man. They are able to do it. They are able to tell people all the information about what's going on. They've already got all the answers, yet that just simply is not true. How do you go about taking that ego out of it and being able to say, I don't know, when that's the correct answer that maybe people need to hear?
Yeah, and the ego it's a real big issue. And usually once people get into the actual study of this stuff, that tends to dissipate pretty quick because they realize that they really don't have all the answers, because ultimately nobody does. And, if you're getting into the field, anybody that's starting out that way, if by the time you're done the research and the proper classes, if you've still got that ego about you, there's something seriously wrong, because this field is so vast. But I mean, I've definitely run into a number of people that have been like that. And, usually I find they're the ones that haven't actually sat down and done any of the work. Because you simply can't be properly educated in this field and walk into it and feel like you know everything, because it's just every single case you're learning. And as soon as you turn around and say, I know it all, then that's the day you have to quit.
Definitely. But people don't get to that point. They want to be the big show, because the one thing that people have out there, and this isn't a criticism, this is for anybody trying something new, is A, we don't want to look foolish. B, we don't want to look stupid. And C, we love it when people talk to us about things they don't understand. It's an ego boost to be able to try and explain things, especially in the paranormal or UFOs. Even though you may not have all the answers, you may be someone who has never, or you may be someone who other people have never met in this field before, and they are now looking to you as that professional, even though you've been doing it 2 days. Doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the game and the ego and the not understanding really comes into play.
Yeah, it really does. And that's where ultimately that's where people that are looking for assistance or something like that, that's when they really need to start asking the hard questions, because usually you don't have to go too far with somebody like that who doesn't really know what they're talking about, but they've learned all the buzzwords. Usually is if you can ask some of the harder questions, then you can start to break down whether or not they actually know what the hell they're talking about. But this is, again, we come back to the idea of, there are no set regulations or rules. So it's almost buyer beware in a lot of ways in this industry, which isn't a good thing, but it's kind of where we're sitting right now. And so you get these people that come in with these egos and whatever. And the more we can, I think, as researchers and whatever, educate the public and make the information more available as to what to look for and how to avoid that, the better off everybody is. Because I think no matter what industry you're in, you're always going to get these people that they come into it that way. the team that I work with Entity Seeker and that does our production and whatever. I mean, we even run into that there, where, you know, you'll get somebody in doing lighting, or you'll get somebody in doing audio or visuals or something like that, and, you know, they come in and they'll promise you all this stuff and they can't deliver on it, you know, and it doesn't take very much before you're poking holes in the fact they don't know what the hell they're doing. But that, you know, that's why we stick really close to the people that, you know, are we know. But I think no matter what field you get into, it's an issue, and you just got to educate yourself enough to know what to ask.
There is so much technology out there that I've seen groups out there who are literally spending more on their ghost hunting equipment than they are for rent or food. Literally, I've seen it happen. Yeah. And I'll never forget this. What drove me absolutely head scratching was about 3-4 years ago. I was on my Facebook, and this guy was bragging about how he had no money for rent, but you should see the brand new Fleur he has. And he was begging for money to help, asking people to help pay for his rent. I mean, that's the reality of what is happening in this. Some people get addicted to it because it's a lot of fun. Let's face it, this is fun. It's different. But on the flip side, when it comes to first-timers who are wanting to get into this, what do you recommend for gear? What should they be looking at in order to introduce themselves? Because we don't want people breaking the bank out there.
No, absolutely. And I mean, ultimately, the funny thing is that most of the gear that you see people toting around, they have absolutely no idea what it's for. You see this a lot with EMF meters and K2 meters and stuff like that. You know, they think that it's measuring something that it's not measuring. So I think the first thing is you know, you want to be able to document what you're observing and what's going on. And honestly, like, pen and paper is the first thing you want, you know, something to be able to take notes and document accurately what's going on. And for us, it's always, our number one thing has always been the camera, because just walking around in an environment where we've got the camera constantly running, and just in order, if for nothing else, just to be able to document the interviews with the people we're talking to, so we can go back on them later. And, you know, did the person say that, or did they say this? Well, we got footage of it. Let's find out. So even just, you know, something as simple as that is really great. But I mean, unless you're people that are knowledgeable in how to use some of this stuff, you know, there's really not a point in having it. You know, you've got to be able to rule stuff out, but you also got to be educated enough to know what you're ruling out. So if you're, you know, chasing people or chasing around entities with, you know, ghost boxes or something like that, well, that's not helpful.
But is it helpful to go in and say, well, we need this technology because our team is about debunking. We're about the science. We're about trying to prove or disprove that this phenomena is real. I mean, that's 80% of the groups out there that are doing that. But if you're a first timer, you don't want that big bill. Like, I wouldn't want it. I run a ghost tour. We're buying a bunch of K2 meters just to put in people's hands. We're not getting all the big expensive gear, not because we couldn't afford it, but just the fact that it's not necessary for what we are doing.
No, absolutely. And that's why I say, you know, probably your camera is your number one tool. Because and not only does it do what it's, you know, obviously does, but you know, it's picking up audio and things like that as well. So, I mean, really that becomes the focus, and then spending the rest of the time, you know, discovering what these different pieces of equipment are measuring and figuring out what you want to do. You know, like you were just saying, you know, what is the intention? What is the goal? What are you doing with this stuff? And, you know, that kind of sets your direction too, where, you know, I mean, for me, something like an electromagnetic field meter, it's important because if I go into a house, you know, older property here or something like that, I need to know my levels of EMF, because oftentimes in Alberta specifically, we get these ridiculously, you know, old wiring in our buildings, and, you know, that'll mess with people's heads and their perception. And then you end up with, you know, people thinking places are haunted that aren't. But it's, you know, so I need to be able to rule that out so I can tell somebody whether or not, you know, what they're seeing is delusion. But I think with a lot of these cameras like the FLIR cameras and things like that run, $2,000-$3,000. Ultimately, unless you're trained in using a FLIR camera, it's really not going to help you.
But in regards to gear, if I'm brand new, what do you recommend me to get besides a camera? Do I get a K2? Do I get a digital voice recorder? Am I getting a electronic temperature gauge? What am I getting?
For me, like the first things that we ended up picking up were the cameras, as many cameras as we could possibly get our hands on, because documenting the environment and keeping those cameras running was ultimately what mattered. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that really vouch for the little electronic voice recorders and things like that. But at the end of the day, the problem is, unless you've got a directional microphone or something like that, you have to have a camera on it anyway, because you need to know what's going on in the room. Somebody's going to come at your audio recording at some point and go, well, how do I know somebody didn't come and fake this, or somebody wasn't in the room? Well, guess what? You need to be able to show the fact that this isn't possible. And then if you've got a camera and you've got, say, electronic voice recorder or something like that, all going at the same time, and you capture the sound on two different devices, great, that's a bonus. But yeah, honestly, cameras for me was the number one thing, and it's still probably my number one thing whenever I go into these spaces. We work, as I say, with a production team, and the cameras and proper audio and microphones is really important stuff. So I would say definitely things like that. Even simple things like, make sure you've got hard-toed boots. If you're going into any sort of business or historical location or anything like that, pay attention to your safety. What are you wearing? Are you wearing something that's going to be safe in the environment if you've got nails coming out of the floor, stuff like that. And as I say, anything that you can get your hands on that's going to document the normal of the environment. Because ultimately, when we're going into these places, we're trying to rule out the normal before we go into, establishing anything paranormal. But your camera's documenting the environment, and your own sense of perception and intuition is probably something that most people don't touch on or think about, but is definitely almost number one on my list.
You bring up a good point there in regards to your own sensitivity or intuition. A lot of people getting into this want to block that out because it's not scientific. There is no way to prove what your own intuition says or something along those lines. And a lot of people out there who are new do not want to get caught up in that. Yet there are a lot of veteran ghost hunters out there, whether it's people that you see on television or whether it's people whom are behind the scenes who will say, look, I use my gear, but it's all about feel. It's all about getting to know what is right and what is wrong, listening to that little voice. Why is that put down so much? And why is it such an important message to listen to that?
Well, I think it gets put down because ultimately, you do want to be able to look at the hard evidence at the end of the day. I mean, if you're just walking out and saying, "Oh, I had a bad feeling," that's not enough. That's not helping anybody. But there's, we tend to suppress our instinct as people just in general, and I personally think that's a mistake because, so a lot of this industry and this field, is about the intellect. It's problem solving. We have to be able to think these issues out and be able to strategize and critical think. But there's also a language that non-physical has that we kind of poo-poo and negate a lot of the time, which is, it's almost like the heart language in a way, and how we come into a space and what our energy is representing. Like, what's interesting about that is that if you ask a dog trainer, for instance, and they'll give you all the facts about the dog and the breed and how they behave and so on and so forth, but they'll also tell you, if you break it down, what's going to matter when you come in to a dog that is, rangy and barking and snarling and doing its thing. Well, how you approach that dog in terms of your energy is everything, because you approach that dog wrong and you're going to get bitten. So, we tend to want to strictly stick to the facts, but you look at an experiment, for example, like the double slit experiment, And of course, Dr. Dean Radin, he's probably one of the kings of the double slit experiment. But he has come to understand with that experiment that his intention and setting his intention will actually alter the results of what that is. So, even on a scientific level, how we approach things really begins to matter. And this field is so key for that.
Well, we only got about 90 seconds here before we need to go to break. Best advice for somebody who is new getting into this? Is it intuition? Is it gear? Is it about having focus?
It's about, I would say, know yourself before you get into it above anything else. Know your limits. Know what you know and be prepared to know what you don't know. Understand where you sit and be ridiculously honest with yourself, because then you can start to just decide which area of this field you're going to go into, because there's so many of them. And pick a focus, pick something that you want to do, and then get your hands on as much informational paper as you possibly can, and just absorb yourself into it until you feel like you've got a grasp on it.
Wonderful. Morgan Knudsen is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio for Ghosts of the Great White North. We've given Mike Morin the night off from Haunted Crew of Canada. He had a buddy flying in from Australia, so we figured, you know what, we'll give him a night off. We'll let him relax, chill out, have a good time with his brother and friend. Either way, good time. It's Morgan Knudsen from Haunted Hospitals and Paranormal 911 on television. You can check that out on your local stations and see where you can view that. Of course, before we go to break, I want to remind all of you that a good way to support this show is to go to our website, spacedoutradio.com. Click on our store. Go do a little shopping. Shopping's fun at any time, but it's a great way to support what we do as well. T-shirts, hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, pictures, you name it, we got it. We got more Spaced Out Radio with hour number 2 coming up.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Morin. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the Immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Always a pleasure to have you along for the ride. Tomorrow night on the show, Robert Robinson joins us. We're going to talk some much-needed cryptid talk, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, KDUN, AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Revolution Radio and Deep Talk Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hodiernal. Hodiernal is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Go shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store because it's a good way to support what we do. And, of course, you can always read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. The third Wednesday of every month, we have Mike Morin and Morgan Knudsen on for Ghosts of the Great White North. We've given Mike the night off as he's spending it with a buddy of his who's in town from Australia. So Morgan and I are taking it the distance tonight as we talk everything ghosts. And Morgan, welcome back to the show.
It is so good to be here yet again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're always have a nice time together. Too bad little Lucky Merle isn't here. We need some Merle time. We always love the Merle time around here.
Yeah, there's nobody to make fun of now. I don't know what to do. I'm a little lost, a little sad.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I want to get into an interesting topic here because when it comes to ghost hunting, and you've been doing it a while now, we always hear of the popular places, whether it's Alcatraz, Gettysburg, Waverly Hills, any type of insane asylum or rundown hospital, cemeteries. We get it all. And this is where we call these go-to spots where everybody wants to investigate just to have the experience. People get excited about it. And why not? They are tourist attractions. But in the end, is going to the same places over and over again doing anything to propel the paranormal field into some different area of expertise?
Yeah, it's funny because, there's some locations that I think are worth visiting repeatedly. I mean, Gettysburg being a good example of that because it's such a plethora of phenomenon called residual energy, where it's almost like the environment's got a memory and it kind of plays back these scenarios. And right now there's teams of investigators and researchers and scientists that are now beginning to understand that this phenomenon very, very well may be rooted to the geological makeup of the land itself, because it's sitting on a very sort of strange quartz bed, which retains oftentimes an electromagnetic charge, and they're starting to wonder if that actually might have something to do with it. So in some areas, it's great because, people are taking the time to repeatedly go back somewhere and further the investigations. I think where the problem becomes is that, you get these sort of touristy type things but they're not, investigators aren't going in order to perpetually study. They just want to experience something. So I think if you're going in with the idea that, okay, if I can just, if I can make this a study location, that's great, because I think these one-offs aren't helping either. People will go in for a night and then leave and then don't come back. And it's like, well, that's not helping anybody because you're not verifying your research. You're not really delving into the location. So there's that issue. But on the other hand, it also kind of stops the exploration for more, which doesn't help either. So you start ignoring reports of maybe that out of the way spot because you want to hit the big shebang kind of thing.
So when you look at these hotspots and everybody wants to go there, should we be, as investigators, looking for places that have never been investigated before, or should we be looking for places that are more popularized in order to gain that experience? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I think once you've got a beat on this stuff, I think being able to look for those new locations, I think, is always really important because that's what ends up furthering our knowledge. That's the one thing that keeps my knife sharp a lot of the time is, you get these new cases and every day is different. It's almost like, being on the job somewhere where, you never really know what's going to get thrown at you, but it's these problems that allow that critical thinking time. And you're able to start applying what you've known, maybe from these even more well-known locations, where there's been studies done before. And, it sort of allows you to branch outside the box a little bit.
So when it comes to virgin territory that is out there, and I think it's pretty much exciting to have some place that nobody has ever investigated. Are we doing enough to be creative as an entire field to look at some of these locations, or are we too used to doing the fallback into more popular areas?
Yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of investigators, they see some of the TV shows that are, because they're usually the ones that are hitting the big ones like Waverly Hills and places like that. And they see all this stuff occurring and they're attracted to that and they want to go do that. But I think at the end of the day, being able to go out to these unique places and experiencing maybe a phenomenon that's not been documented before is what's really going to push things forward. And it might be a little bit on the unnerving side. And no, you're not necessarily going to get the kudos and the fame and the fortune for it or the attention for it. But at the end of the day, I think that's what's going to bring a lot of this new stuff to light.
So with these virgin territories that are out there that have never been investigated, whether they're small towns in America or parks, or whether they are along the Gold Rush Trail of British Columbia way up north, how much further do we need to push the field in order to go into those areas?
I think it depends on what you're investigating because there are so many different avenues that to look at. Are people looking at intelligent hauntings? Are they trying to investigate our relationship with non-physical? Are they looking for new scientific exploration? I think that needs to be narrowed down, and then once they're able to do that, you can kind of decide what angle maybe to pursue those interests and where to go. If you're going to, every bit of the field, I think, has a different way of pushing that limit. And so if you're looking at something like, residual energy, okay, well, where is it unlikely to capture something like that, but where has it been reported? One of the places in Alberta, which I've heard the odd thing about, but nothing consistent, is Drumheller. And for those of you guys who don't know the Drumheller area, it's a very famous archaeological site for dinosaurs of every possible era. And what's interesting about that is the fact that people that have been out there, that have been digging, have reported hearing dinosaur footsteps out in Drumheller. And they've heard sounds that they can't account for out there. And it's desolate. It's hoodoos and just it looks like the Montana Badlands. So you get something like that and it's like, hey, we're talking about residual energy. Well, let's push past the Civil War. How far back can residual energy be recorded? Is it possible to turn around and record something like what these people are reporting? Dinosaur footsteps. Who knows? Right? So, I mean, I think it depends on the field, but man, you start to get into it and you start to push those barriers and it gets pretty interesting.
See, the way I look at it when it comes to virgin territory, I would sooner investigate places that have never been done before because the stories are either eerie or crazy or just absolutely, mind-pounding when it comes to the imagination. And the way I look at it, like, for instance, I'm not an investigator, but I have curiosity. All right. So if I were to go to Gettysburg or Waverly Hills or someplace like that, the idea of going there seems really, really cool for a vacation getaway. But when it comes to ghost hunting, it just seems like it's more about ego because people want to compete for what they found comparatively to other teams out there. And that's where the tension arises in a lot of this paranormal debate that we have out there. So
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Is there a right or is there a wrong as to, if you have a team out there that you should be wasting your money going to the Queen Mary or the Winchester Castle or someplace like that, rather than finding some old barn or museum in the middle of nowhere and going there and seeing what's out there for the curiosity?
Yeah, I think again we're coming back to the idea of intention and what is it when you're starting out? What is it that you want to do? Are you looking for that that 15 minutes of fame or competition with the Joneses, or are you looking to further the field? And if you're looking to further the field, then there's a way to go about doing that, and that's exactly like what you're talking about, where you're investing the time, you're documenting what you're finding, you're discovering a new place, like you're getting new reports of things that aren't so famous but are interesting, and you're prepared to go out there and properly document it. And if you really want to get into it, is turn around and submit a paper on it. But I think when you get into as soon as you get into that sort of 15 minutes, I want a thrill ride. Well, at that point in time, I think you kind of have to own the fact that you kind of want the thrill ride, and that's fine. That's that's okay. But I think then turning around and masquerading it as we're trying to pursue the field of science is that's crazy.
I can understand that, and I can see that absolutely in regards to it. But when you go to a new location that has never been investigated before, what are we missing out on?
I think do you mean like what are we missing out when we don't go?
Are they more active? Are they usually not as active? How does that work?
Well, the nice thing about something that has not been investigated previously, or that is less known, is number one, your chances are you're not going to get the field. You're not going to be subjected to hoaxes. That's one of the great things about it, because you're going out there. It's not a popular place. People aren't trying to get tourists. It's not a tourist trap. So you've got that advantage right off the bat. And then number one, you've got the wonder of the fact that nobody has likely experienced this phenomenon before, or very few have experienced the phenomenon before. So that in of itself, for me, has such a great level of intrigue. But you've got the freedom to be able to explore and research the area as you go. You can piece it out a little bit more. You can pace yourself. You're not pressured into, okay, well, I've got this time slot to be here. So you have got the opportunity to take your time and be able to document without bias. Because, you go in to these places and you kind of have an idea as to what you're expecting, because there's been so many stories and there's been so many investigations into it. But on a new location, it's wide open. So there's so many advantages to doing that.
So would you recommend then going to someplace that nobody has gone before, especially if you're a new group trying to learn this?
Yeah, I think there's definitely value in it. I think when you're brand new at it, having a location that might be a little bit more well known, you can be an advantage, because when you're still trying to learn and you're getting brand new activity kind of thrown at you, it can be a little disconcerting because you're not entirely sure what you're experiencing. So having a place that has a little bit more of a background and a study behind it, might help. But, once you get out there and you're able to sort of step foot into new research, going to these new places, that's the thrill of it.
True, that's the thrill, but is it an easier place to investigate?
I don't know if it's necessarily easier, because at that point you're always having to use your critical thinking skills. It's definitely, I think, a required thing for anybody that's doing this type of work. But you definitely have to, I think, when you're going into a brand new spot, it's definitely something where people have to take all of the precautions that we've talked about. You're looking at a lot of safety issues. You've got to really know, I think, what you're looking at to a point, in order to properly sit down and document the phenomenon that you're experiencing. I think somebody going in right off the bat, brand new, has never done this before, I think it's going to throw them for a bit of a loop.
Why is that? Why would it throw somebody for a loop?
I think because when you're not used to witnessing for the phenomenon and you're completely unprepared for it, it can be a really frightening thing. Going into a location that may be a little bit more well known, maybe a little bit less isolated, you've got the option of, number one, you've got the option of bowing out a little bit easier. You've also got the option of asking people. You've got probably more witnesses to deal with. You've got the ability to talk to more people. There's probably more history on the location. So it becomes a little bit easier even to find other investigators that have already done the work, that you can start to ask and shadow. Where with a brand new spot, you've never done it before, you're walking into it, and I think it's something that's great, but I think you need to be a little bit more on the experience side, just my opinion, to be able to step in and get to the bottom of some of this stuff, because some of it can get real weird.
Morgan Knudsen is our guest tonight on Ghosts of the Great White North, as Mike Morin has the night off. We're talking hauntings here, going to virgin territory versus going to the popular hotspots. There is always the chance that some of these new areas may not have any activity whatsoever. If you want to go into one of these, if you want to go into one of these places, how important is it to do your homework, get your history of the area before you go waste the gas, time, and money?
Oh, it's crucially important, because so many of the investigations that you can end up on absolutely yield nothing. So you really do have to have a report of something before you take off, and go into somewhere for the most part anyway. Unless you've got real reason to believe that's something's going on, because otherwise that's exactly what will happen, is you're going to waste a lot of gas. And the thing is too, is the homework's not always necessarily about the paranormal phenomenon, but also about the area. Like specifically in Alberta, you've got a lot of native reservations. You've got a lot of farmland territory. There's things that you need to know, and cultures that you need to respect. So there's a number of different things. Sometimes it's even about whether or not that land you've got permission to be on there. So homework is unbelievably crucial.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of those points that you just kind of forget about, especially if you're new. You just forget about it.
Yeah, and you get really excited. It's the first time you're going out to study something, and it's exciting, and you're really focused on the what you're bringing and what you're packing and all of that. But at the end of the day, you've got to remember you might not be the only one out there. It could be a situation where, you're on somebody's land or you're stepping into a culture maybe you're not familiar with. What are their beliefs or respective beliefs? There are some, for example, there's some phenomenon with some of the Native American populations here where there are certain seasons that you just don't talk about it. And, if you mention it to them during one of these seasons, it's offensive, so you got to be prepared for the fact that, you're walking into virgin territory on a number of levels.
Absolutely you are. So when you go in there, whether you're a new group or a veteran group into a new location, what are some of the security areas that you look for safety? Because it all comes down to that.
Yeah, it really does. We usually have some sort of architect or structural engineer with us for that reason, because there are some locations. We did a investigation up at a mission in Lac La Biche quite a number of years ago now, but it burned down since then. But I remember the one building that we were in. You could walk on certain points on the upstairs level of one of the buildings, but you walked into certain rooms and they told you point blank, you're going to go through the floor if you walk into this room or that room. So so there's certain things like that where you've really got to be asking people, what's the deal? Is this condemned? Is this a situation that's going to be safe, and be observant. And a lot of the times too, you get these investigators that they believe that the phenomenon only happens at night for reasons passing understanding. And, they'll go out there at night and that makes it even worse. If you're in an environment you're not familiar with, now you've got to deal with the fact that, you can't see anything. So there's a couple of issues with that aspect of it. But again, also, you've got, if you've got somebody on that property or something like that who, if they don't know you're coming and they've got they're sitting there with a loaded shotgun or something like that protecting their property, you got to think about that. But there was another issue, and I can't remember. I don't think this was in Alberta, but it was I believe it was Canada. Was a team of investigators or whichever that had gone into this house. And it was about 24 hours later that the one girl, she ended up quite sick and ended up passing away. And there was another fellow that also came down with terrible illness, and it turned out to be hantavirus, because the house the house was a mess, and it was full of mice. And it wasn't out in the middle of nowhere. It was just a house. But, it's stuff like this, you don't always think about, but it's like, okay, well, you've got a house that's been, somewhat uninhabited for a while, and, well, now it's full of mice and you've got hantavirus. So yeah, you never know.
All right, Morgan, I'm going to get you to hold on here because we're going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Morgan Knudsen, Mike Morin, Haunted Crew of Canada, and Paranormal 911. And, of course, Haunted Hospitals. Ghosts of the Great White North continues right after this on the Mighty SOR. Remember, a good way to support this show, go to our website, click on the shop banner, pick yourself up a t-shirt, a coffee mug, hat, socks, you name it. It's what we do, it's what we provide, and it's a great way to support this show. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social media freedom can take care of that for you. Social media freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the Immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Always a pleasure to have you along for the ride. Thank you for everyone tuning in on our terrestrial affiliates and our digital affiliates as well. And, of course, a good way to support this show is to go to our store on our website. Pick yourself up a T-shirt, hat, coffee mug, you name it, we got it. And we'd love for you to help spread the word that way as well. Ghost of the Great White North happens the third Wednesday of every month. Tonight it's just Morgan Knudsen from Paranormal 911 and Haunted Hospitals television shows. Mike Morin from Haunted Crew of Canada has the night off. Morgan, thank you so much for being with us.
Always glad to be back.
Let's get into some stories here, because when a lot of people go ghost hunting, whether they go on a tour or whether they're doing the investigation themselves, they always want this extreme experience, whether it's that photograph that doesn't make sense or something to run out and jump at them that we'd only see in movies that never seems to happen when we're at least filming or doing an investigation. Tell us a couple of stories from hauntings you've been on.
Sure. Yeah, I think probably one of the most unique ones was it was actually a hospital, and it's been a relatively controversial place over the years. But we were able to go into this place just before it was completely shut down for renovations, and it was probably one of the most unique cases that I've experienced in terms of things that have surprised me. And it's really, really hard to surprise me at this point. But this one kind of did it. We had there's a lot of interesting things that went on in terms of residual energy. We were experiencing all sorts of strange sounds. But what was interesting to us was the sounds, or at least some of them, didn't end up coming back until we got the footage home. We had set up multiple security camera system throughout about 3 floors of the hospital. And when we got the footage home, we discovered that it sounded like the entire hospital was running. There was pretty much no power to this place. There was lights and one elevator running. And we listened to the elevator, which had not been running while we were investigating, because we made sure that was stopped. And we heard that going up and down consistently. And one of the nurses the RNs that we work with, who didn't attend that night, we gave her the footage and said, tell us what you hear. And she was able to list off all of these different things, like, oh, that's this pump and that pump, and that's this cart and that cart, and so on and so forth. And she was really surprised to know that there was absolutely nobody on that floor. There was no equipment left. There was nothing. But probably one of the most unique experiences that I had there, we were in on the psychiatric floor in this sort of tiny little area for people that were, under strict observation for suicide watch or anything like that. So basically you walked into this room and there was a desk, and the desk could observe about 4 or 5 different rooms that were all plexiglassed off. So these people could be monitored. And we walked into one of these patient rooms, and we heard this extremely distinct sound of somebody screaming. And it shocked the heck out of us. We all, the 3 of us who were there, we all looked at each other. And I had a camera running and audio recorder at the time. And we caught the sound on both. So not only did we hear it, but we caught the sound on both devices. And it was a shocker. I've not heard residual energy that clear before or since that time. It was phenomenal. It was like it was right in our ear.
What did it say?
It was just a scream. It sounded like somebody that was just not right. Not right in the head. Had some serious problems going on. And they were, it was, what I think whatever had gone on in there had left an imprint. And we were at the right place, right time for that to play back.
So when you were there, was that the only time that you had the chance to investigate that building, or was that something that you got to go back and maybe try for that again, but were unsuccessful?
We would have loved to have gone back to that place, but it wasn't long after that they completely closed it off, and they started to renovate it. They're turning it into condos of all things. They're not even ripping the building down. They just gutted it and they're turning it into condos. But, no, I would, if the opportunity had ever arisen again, I would have absolutely loved to have gone back. It was a bit of a crime that the thing had been gutted to begin with, because I think ultimately it would have been an absolutely fantastic, laboratory for, research in the parapsychology field. It was just phenomenal.
Have you ever been on an investigation where somebody has been attacked and then had to stop what you're doing to deal with that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, thankfully our team, we're pretty adept at avoiding that. But there was an instance where I was actually training a team here in Edmonton who wanted to get into it, and they went in with they had the wrong approach to the situation, and they were not paying attention to the energy that they were projecting. They weren't paying attention to how to step into the space and quiet their minds. And the entity that was there was pretty volatile. It was one of those things that would go from 0 to 60 in about a split second. And it went out and nailed one of the investigators right in the face. Gave him a black eye, which was not good. So, but yeah, lesson learned. And it definitely does happen. It's something we got to be really conscious of. But usually the people that have been attacked or are being targeted are usually our clients.
So what are you dealing with on that basis then? What is motivating you? What is pushing you?
Well, the big debate is what is a negative entity like that? At that point, what do you do? And, how do you identify something like that? And nobody really knows what they are. Everybody all we can do is observe their behavior. And, at that point, for us, it's a matter of, okay, what is the client needing? And usually, of course, it's relief from whatever the phenomenon is that's going on if it's really volatile. So at that point, it's a matter of, okay, we're documenting as much of it as we can. We're trying to get a bead on what we define as the personality type of these negative entities, because with our program Teaching the Living, we've defined 3 of them specifically. And, once we're able to do that, we can start to manage the situation by managing how the client is dealing with it. And at that point, as long as the client's willing to do the work, we can get them free and clear, within hopefully a short amount of time.
So when somebody gets attacked, what's the emergency response? What should be doing?
Well,
what should be happening?
The first thing is to not panic, which is really tough for, especially if you're going into this new. It's the attacks tend to be very painful. People that are, scratched or cut or anything like that, the cuts tend to be extremely painful. They report them feeling like burns, and so that can be really rough. So of course, first aid is a big deal. We always have a first aid kit on hand. As I say, we usually have a medical professional with us at all times anyway. So first aid is always a big deal, and usually to get the person off the site, because we don't want to escalate the entity's behavior any further either. So that's always something that we're conscious of. There's something about that person that's triggered this, and we have to be conscious of the fact that, okay, either, they're not ready, or, we've got to settle the situation down quickly. So those are the first things that come to mind.
So when somebody gets attacked, do you surround them as a group? Do you send them to the shaman? Do you send them to the medical officer? What are you trying to do in order to get that spirit out? Because a lot of people don't know what that feeling is like.
Yeah, I mean, it can be it can be a shocker, when something like that'll happen. And as I say, usually for us, it's something that's gone on with the client, and they don't understand what it is that's provoking the attack. So they tend to feel very extremely vulnerable, because they don't understand what's setting it off. The good thing is for us, with the program that we have, we can usually isolate that pretty quickly and figure it out. But under the exact moment that it's happening, interestingly enough, a lot of these negative entities, they're very territorial, and they oftentimes will attack, interestingly enough, when they feel like there's something that's gone on that they are either out of control about, or somebody's come into the space that they're upset with, or something like that. They're almost very animalistic. And so depending on the personality type of that entity is ultimately how we end up dealing with it. So depending on the situation and depending on that particular entity, we kind of deal with it differently.
So how does a spirit come to the point where it wants to attack? A lot of people will see that as some sort of malevolent spirit, whether they were formerly human or demonic in some sort, or how does it come together? What would make a spirit attack? Well,
whenever we get something that's volatile like that, we're not dealing with a person anymore. We're dealing with something else. And as I say, what that is kind of up for debate. But what we've realized is with two different characteristics and personality types that tend to become violent quickly. And the one I write about in my book, actually, we nickname it the pit bull, because they tend to be like guard dogs, and they tend to manifest in places where there has been a lot of negative focus or negative attention, and they tend to hang out and be almost like literally act like guard dogs over a space. There's one at Greyfriars Kirkyard in the UK, and anytime that people step into I think it's the mausoleum area at Greyfriars Kirkyard, immediately this thing goes after them and attacks them and cuts them up and all sorts of stuff, and it just gets really, really upset. So we find violation of territory can be an issue. The other type that we've discover is one that we call the immediate aggressor, and what they tend to do is they're very domineering, usually over people, not necessarily over spaces, but they tend to come in very quickly, and within about 48 hours they've either wrecked your house, wrecked you, or both, and they kind of dominate with fear. And so that's another angle that they'll come out with, but they're always typically looking for you to sort of fall into a rung on a hierarchy that, I mean, I don't necessarily understand, but it seems like when people are kind of obeying the rules, they don't seem to have a problem. And as soon as people sort of step out of line, whatever that looks like in that house, then that's usually when the attack comes, and it almost comes like a correction. It's really interesting. It's like if you watch a dog pack, the alpha male dog will turn around and nip or bite at the at a dog that's not alpha or who's sort of stepping out of line. And it's interesting to watch these entities in these homes because you can start to see a very similar pattern. It's really interesting.
Do you have any examples of where this has happened while you've been on location?
Yeah, there's been a number of places. There's a museum actually here in Edmonton, where one that I dealt with at length, because they were at the time they were trying to renovate the museum and they weren't having a very good time with it. But it's been a really interesting case. The museum's quite old. It was built in 1904, and the staff there was having they weren't disclosing to us completely what was going on. They asked us in, and they were kind of making light, I guess, of the phenomenon when we walked in there, but the level of fear that they had didn't match up to the phenomenon that they were talking about. So we knew right away that something wasn't quite right. And what we ended up learning was that there was a janitor at the time who had been connecting with some sort of entity wherever it came from, and it followed him around for quite a while. It ended up attacking his daughter at his house, and when they fired this janitor, this entity kind of moved back into the museum and was pretty rampant around both the upper floor and the basement, to the point where the staff had a buddy system to lock up at night because they were really afraid of it. And we finally interviewed one witness who said that she'd actually been attacked and choked by this thing. So it became really clear at that point, what was going on, and they just didn't want to, divulge it because they were just terrified. But, it was one of those situations where, we really had to work with the staff in order to get them sorted out and turned around, emotionally before we could get the situation with the entity under control, because they were absolutely petrified of this thing. And, they haven't had any problems since, thankfully, but it was rough.
What was this entity's problem?
It was very territorial over the space. It had its sort of home base down in this archive room. And it had just resonated down there. Why they become that way, I have no idea. But they seem to, especially in the case of this thing, became extremely protective over that area. So anybody coming in, that potentially came in with the wrong energy that set it off was in for it. It wasn't good.
Did this seem to happen at certain times of the year, or was it just because of that construction?
It was year round. The construction ended up happening later. Construction was recent. It was within the last number of years. But they had issues with the entity before that. It started with this
right.
Jan. Yeah.
See, the reason why I asked that was because at our museum here, for the tour that we do, the last 2 Mays is when we've had people attacked.
Interesting.
And then we were able to put together, after this last attack last May when it happened to me, we were able to put together the idea that the museum curators and the volunteers that take care of the museum do all the spring cleaning in May.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
so this year, we literally had to tell them, look, if you're cleaning up an area, just say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're just tidying things up. We're not moving anything to piss you off or anything, and just go from there to pay that respect.
Yeah, and explaining it is a great idea. I did a lecture at the Stony Plain Museum a year or two ago now, and it was a very similar situation where the entity wasn't necessarily incredibly aggressive, but it had its moments, and it had shoved one of the curators or whatever off a ladder, and it really didn't like this woman. And but when we came in to set up for the lecture, there was a vibe about the place that just felt unbelievably agitated. Like you knew this thing was just on edge, because we were changing the environment and whatever. And you could feel the agitation in the space. And the museum had said that as well, that there was, every time they made a change to the space or whichever, that they would have issues. So, that was one of the things that we did was we showed up a couple hours early and we parsed it all out. And I said, this is what's going to go on. We're, coming in at this time, we're leaving at this time, and so on and so forth. And it was okay. Everything went fine, but that really did make a difference.
We often forget that a lot of these spirits that are out there, whether they're angry or not, they do have some sort of human connection. And we have to remember that when on location, because, if you talk to them like you were just doing as a human, they're going to be a little bit more relaxed because they know what the intention is. But if you're dealing with something that isn't of this world, how different is it?
I think it's quite different. Because when we're dealing with human spirits, there's a very, very positive spin on it. And, you generally have no problem with that kind of thing. But when you're dealing with these negative entities that are not people, they tend to be very animalistic, and they're very reliant on the headspace that you come in with. So, if you're coming in, all hyped up and upset, or you're even hyped up and excited, or angry and confrontational and that kind of thing. It's like, if you're going to walk into a tiger pen, you're not going to be jumping all over the place and ramped up and, yelling at the tiger. You're going to pay attention to how you're coming into the space, because explaining it to them is they don't care. They're not, how you pay the bills every month, or how stressed you were that day, or whichever. I mean, they don't want an explanation. They're very, very much in the moment, and whatever you're projecting at that time begins to really matter. We had a case, it was in Sherwood Park here in Alberta, and it was a situation where the parents were just poking the bear. They had this entity in their basement, and it was a finished basement, but they had their little boy had his bedroom down there. Right. And
Morgan, I'm going to get you to finish that story when we come back from the break. Very important. I love stories like this, and we're going to get to some questions as well from our audience. Morgan Knudsen, Mike Morin, Ghosts of the Great White North happens the third Wednesday of every month. Mike's got the night off, so it's just me and Morgan tonight hanging on out, sharing some ghost stories and techniques for all of you. Stay tuned for hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio, coming up right after this.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Morin. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the Immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website, including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Cryptid Talk all night tomorrow night. Researcher Robert Robinson joins us, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in New Orleans on UPRN 107.7 FM, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and in Reedsport, Oregon, KDUN AM 1030. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Revolution Radio and Deep Talk Radio. Good to have you with us. Remember, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hodiernal. Hodiernal is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Go shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store. That's a good way to support this show. And you can read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. For the final time tonight, we introduce Ghosts of the Great White North. We've given Mike Morin from Haunted Crew of Canada the night off, but we are joined by Morgan Knudsen from Paranormal 911 and Haunted Hospitals. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Always my pleasure.
Now, right before the break, you were telling a story about how a family was taunting a ghost in their basement.
Yeah, and this is such a cautionary tale, I think, in so many different ways, because when we first went into this place, they were having some serious issues with a negative entity that was just hanging around in their it was a very finished basement. It was quite nice, but it seemed to have an obsession with their youngest child's room. The kid probably was about 4. And when we went in to help them, we gave them a really specific set of instructions. And the one thing was, we really don't want you guys giving this thing any attention. Get your attention off it. It's not helping anything. And the husband was very interested in paranormal investigation. So this is sort of ties back into what we were talking about at the first hour. He really wanted to get into it, and I think he thought he'd hit the jackpot because now all of a sudden this was going on in his house. He thought it was really interesting. But the problem was that, of course, his son was sleeping in this bedroom, which was a hotspot for part of the problem. So he ended up, oh yeah, no problem. I don't have a problem putting this away. That's fine. We left and we thought we were doing okay with them and things seemed to be getting better for a little bit. And then all of a sudden we get this call from the husband. Nothing you guys said worked. I don't understand but you guys better come back. He's all angry and whatever. And as soon as I hear that something about the Teaching the Living program doesn't work, the first thing I think is, what have they not done? So we went back, we sat down with them, and the whole time he's telling us, nothing's working and I don't understand this. And we're watching his wife, who's sitting beside him, and she's got her arms folded across her chest, and she's looking at him like she wants to dig his eyes out with spoons. And so he quit talking eventually, and we looked at her and we said, okay, what's your side of the story? And she took a look at her husband and she was like, do you want to tell them what's really going on, or do you want me to? And he just went white as a sheet. But what had been happening, what he wasn't telling us, was that he was going down there at nighttime with his, voice recorder and whatever else, and, trying to antagonize this thing. And then he would just go to bed. But then he'd, of course, put his son to bed in the room where he was just, prodding at this thing, shut the door, go upstairs, and go to sleep. And meanwhile, the son's sitting there and ends up getting attacked by this entity, because ultimately the entity's not, necessarily distinguishing between the two of them. It's just now agitated enough that it's going to go for the next one, the next person that's in there. And, it was mind-blowing that he didn't seem to care. But it ended in her eventually, because he wouldn't listen, taking the kids and divorcing them. And it was sad to see it end that way. But she realized she had to protect her son, and he just had no intention of just stopping what he was doing. It was really brutal.
I can see that. I mean, that is a perfect example of what we've talked about, of how this stuff can really traumatize a family, because they don't know. At first, it always starts off with fun, because you get, my house is haunted. I got a ghost in my house, and everybody likes to brag. It's a good conversation piece, much like a new table or chair or painting on the wall. But there's a reality to it. And having to deal with that reality, if you don't know what you're doing, or the only thing you're learning from is television shows, that's where the amateur side, as we talked about in hour number one, really comes into focus.
Yeah, and the disregard, I think, too, for some of the things that go on, like for example, with family. It was really sad to see the fact that the son was, unfortunately, the bait for the phenomenon that was happening. He just didn't seem to acknowledge the fact that his son was in trouble. And unfortunately, it's something we see on investigations more common than we'd like to think. But the idea that this, that the kids almost become, a focus or a distraction for the entity on some level that takes the attention off the parent. We see that. And, it's another family dynamic that, if you're a newbie investigator or something like that, that's hard to navigate.
So when you are dealing with people in that situation, especially when kids are involved, it gets a little bit extra sensitive. What are you telling people who may not be familiar as they think they are?
The first thing we always prioritize is you have to secure the children. You have to secure the children. Number one, they're looking for the adults to step in and be adults. So there's that aspect of it. If they're seeing mommy and daddy freaking out, they're terrified. So the parents automatically have to become the leaders in the household. Even if the parents are scared, don't show that to the kids. Let them be secure in their own space. And what we try to guide other investigators on is the idea that you have to get the kids into a state of empowerment, just in the same way that you've got to guide the adults. And and some of it with the kids, it can be actually quite a bit easier. You can do things like create silly things like monster spray or something like that, where you can put something in their hand that's going to make them feel better. Lloyd Auerbach actually had a great routine years ago for a family. The case was the Brown family that were being really frightened by a number of entities in their home. And the little girl had a routine that she did every night before she went to bed, in the habit of ringing these multiple bells. And then she'd get into bed after ringing her last bell, and then she had her bottle of monster spray. And by the time she got into bed, she was in a far better headspace. So, securing the kids and then guiding them, in that way is, it's always important.
Do we take these examples with children a little bit too naively?
I think we don't necessarily give them the credence that we should. I think with, and in cases like paranormal research and whatever, another thing you've got to be really conscious of, and as awful as that is child abuse. And it's something that you, after, a number of years, or, especially if you've got a medical professional with you, which we try to have all the time, you end up becoming sensitive to the warning signs, that monster under the bed. Well, is it a monster under the bed, or is it something else? And sometimes the something else isn't, it might be more physical than what you want to think, but it's, it's something that you always kind of become aware of, because sometimes the language with kids can be very similar.
So when kids are starting to experience this, how should we monitor it?
I think the big thing, is to take kids seriously. They want to be heard. And probably one of the scariest things for kids is when, they go to an adult with something like this, whether or not it's imagined, or whether it's a real phenomenon, to be able to go to an adult and have them turn around and go, oh no, that's in your head, or brush it off, or not sit down and plug in. That's really something that's key, instead of looking at it like, oh, this kid's got a crazy imagination. Our perception is our reality. And sometimes in these cases with these negative entities, especially, what happens is when the parents are unplugged, it leaves a void. And oftentimes these negative entities, they fill a void for some of these kids. If they don't have, for example, say they don't have a father figure, or they don't feel the parents are going through some sort of trauma, like a divorce or something like that, and the kids left feeling alone, what we'll sometimes see is that entity kind of move in and fill that space up. So now all of a sudden the kid's got a best friend that's telling them that mommy and daddy suck, and God knows what else. And now you've got a problem, because the kid has now sided. The entity and the kid have this partnership, and that's really hard to break apart. So having parents that are like plugged in and know what's going on and why it's going on is just, that emotional state is unbelievably crucial.
How often is that happening?
It happens, I wouldn't say frequently, but it's definitely something that we've seen multiple times. Anytime you've got a situation where there's that leeway, where you've got somebody that's in that negative emotional state, so automatically they're attracting on that level, and then they bring in an energy, an energy steps in like that, you can. I wouldn't say it's frequent, but it's definitely something we've run into on multiple occasions. And thankfully the solution is it can be relatively simple, as long as the parents are willing to step in and reestablish the relationship with their child.
So when children are going through this, what are some of the signs we should look for as parents?
Oftentimes the kids will withdraw quite a bit. They talk about what the parents kind of label as the imaginary friend. They suddenly are talking about so-and-so is, so-and-so did this or that. Or we had a case where the little girl she was about 5 or 6 years old, and she was trying to deal with her parents who were going through a rather bitter divorce. She was living with her dad, and she started talking about what she called Grandma Ghost. And Grandma Ghost was showing up and visiting her, and the father kind of brushed it off like, whatever. But the kid was in trouble. And, when you observed her, like, she didn't really have any friends. She was very isolated, just a very introverted little girl. But she was becoming quite obsessive with this Grandma Ghost. And then Grandma Ghost told her at some point that it wanted her family dead. And at that point, he reached out to a friend of mine who reached out to me. And immediately when I got on the phone with this guy, I gave him kind of a protocol of you need to plug back in with your daughter. You can't tell your daughter that she can't talk to this thing anymore, because that's going to push her further towards it. But I was like, you have to be able to partner with her and, begin to change this emotional dynamic. And as soon as we had that conversation, he got home that night and she came to him and said, "Oh, Grandma Ghost said that it couldn't be here anymore, but if I ever needed it, to give it a call." And she had no idea the conversation between him and I even happened, but it was a pretty damn big coincidence. It never showed up again.
That is a weird coincidence. Did the child ever call the Grandma Ghost back?
Apparently not. And the father, thankfully, he stepped in real quick. And I can't remember whether he had brought her to counseling or what had happened, but he got himself together and back in the game pretty quickly. So it seemed to stop that dynamic.
When you say get back into the game very quickly, what do you mean by that sports analogy?
Yeah, I think, oftentimes I think when we see a situation with these children, the parents are really wrapped up in what they're in, whether it be their career or, in this case, sort of the mess of the divorce. But the kids are kind of left by the wayside. They're kind of left to fend for themselves. And that's where we see, these entities oftentimes move in, and and unfortunately, in other cases, that's where you see predators move in too, right? So it depends on where it stems from, but and sort of how that takes shape. But anytime you've got somebody who's emotionally vulnerable, you've got an opportunity there for somebody to kind of step in and fill that space up. And if it's the wrong, if it's that wrong energy or that wrong person, you got a recipe for disaster.
So how do we protect the kids?
I think ultimately it's making sure that you're just paying attention. If the kid's not doing what they normally do, or is having that line of communication open is just so critical. In any case, whether it be something that's paranormal or whether it just be kids in general, you've got to have that dialogue, because when kids feel like they've got somewhere to go and they're not going to be judged, and they've always got that open door, they're going to come forward and talk. I mean, even when I was a kid, when I started having this phenomenon happen to me, there was never a doubt in my mind that I could go to my mom and dad and they weren't going to come down on me for it, and so that was always so crucial, was to have that line of communication and have the parents follow through and not brush it under the rug. So it always gave me the sense that, regardless of what was going to happen in that situation, A, they were going to believe me, and B, there was going to be something done about it, whatever that was. And I mean, I was pretty young at the time. I was 9, but, it made a big difference.
We've got about 5.5 minutes left with you tonight on Ghosts of the Great White North, Morgan. And shifting from children to teenagers, because I think when we focus on children, we think of those 3 to 9-year-olds that are there, but teenagers are just as susceptible too.
Absolutely. And, and with teenagers, it can be rough because, you've got a lot of, brain development happening. You've got a lot of, different part, literally brain development that's really starting to mature. I mean, our brain doesn't actually finish growing till we're about 25. So that's tricky, but you've got a whole other set of circumstances there. And, again, I think, how you deal with these situations when they're young, regardless of what it is, and having that open communication is ultimately going to dictate how they're going to react to this stuff when they get to be a teenager. So it's all about establishing that relationship really early and making sure that this stuff isn't taboo. Don't make it something that, we don't talk about it. Talk about it and celebrate the fact that you can have this amazing relationship with non-physical, and be joyful about it. It doesn't always have to be something that's terrifying. And I mean, ultimately, it's such an empowering thing once you realize that this can be the way it is.
But teenagers go through so much more strife Okay, there is a lot of bullying, a lot of nitpicking. Social media has really increased that. A lot of teenagers don't want to be involved with this type of stuff or admit that it's going on for fear of what their peers will say, let alone the fact that, you can't be a teenager without thinking that you are 1,000,000 times smarter than your parents.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Well, a good example of that is the Enfield case in England, in the UK, and that got, of course, a lot of flack sort of from both sides. But the little girl in that case that had come forward and said that she was being attacked by this entity that called itself Bill, she was absolutely just like bullied to death. I mean, it was terrible. She lost all her friends. She was feeling extremely isolated. And, it got around school really quick, so that wasn't fun. And, another situation was quite a long time ago. It was in the 1870s, but right here in Canada, in Halifax, there was a girl named Esther Cox, and she was, experiencing this phenomenon as well. And when there was a sort of it was an actor really, but he sort of had this hobbyist idea of being an investigator. And he turned around and decided that he was going to spread her name all over the place and make a buck off of her. So they had sort of their own problems. But yeah, with social media, it sort of becomes a whole nother thing. Thankfully, at this point in time, the idea of a haunting and things like that is becoming less of a strike against you. And the generations that are coming up now are becoming quite a bit more in tune and spiritual with their knowledge and information. So I'm hoping that we're going to start to see a change, because that's what I'm kind of watching with these next generations. Is there's not that level of, oh my God, you must be cursed that you would have gotten even in the 90s.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of poltergeists these days. That's for sure.
I mean, the phenomenon is definitely still highly studied, but now it's being studied in laboratories and things like that, where people are, it's becoming a little bit more understood. And I think now when you're dealing with something like a poltergeist, it's not something that people are unaware of anymore. Where before it was like, oh, that's the most insane thing I've ever seen. Where now it's like, oh, that's actually pretty fascinating. And you can go and find the literature on the studies on PK and things like that. So the fact that information is now more available is a massive help.
We got about 90 seconds left with you tonight on Ghosts of the Great White North. Morgan, say thank you to you for coming on and taking out the double duty as Mike Morin had the night off from Haunted Crew of Canada. But let everybody know where they can find you, your information, and your television shows.
Well, they can always find me on entityseeker.ca, Entity Seeker Paranormal Research and Teachings, of course, on Facebook and Twitter. And for Haunted Hospitals and Paranormal 911, it's on TNE Network in Canada, and Paranormal 911 actually debuts in Canada on TNE at 8 Eastern on Monday. So that'll be pretty cool.
And for our American viewers and listeners?
American viewers and listeners can tune in on the Travel Channel, and those lucky buggers already have Paranormal 911. It's been airing there for a few weeks now. So if you guys are looking for that, both Haunted Hospitals and Paranormal 911 are Travel Channel.
Always appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. And we will talk to you and Merle on Wednesday, April 17th is when our next appearance is. So tonight has been a lot of fun. Morgan Knudsen, appreciate it. You have yourself a wonderful night. Coming up on the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio, we get to the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine, and we're going to take some fun answers for the thought of the day today as well. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Hi, George Norrie here. Are you ready for UFO MegaCon, the Immersion event? 7 days, 8 nights, 50 new speakers, UFO military witnesses, experiencer groups, skywatches, and so much more. Join me at UFO MegaCon, March 24th through the 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only new information conference of the year. Now check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Glad to have you along for the ride, and thank you so much for hanging on out. It's time to get to the news, the weird, the wacky, the WTF, the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, so you can leave your head scratching with a little bit of a laugh as we take a look at the weird, the wacky, the WTF. And, of course, you can find all of our news that Captain Shirk puts together by going to our website, spacedoutradio.com, clicking on the news tab. It is right there for you. We're going to start off in, oh, goodness, I don't even know where this is. Let's go to Santa Rosa, California. So, you ever have one of those neighbors that just upsets you, pisses you off, makes you just want to, egg their house or toilet paper their garage or their vehicles? Well, this is taking a feud to a whole new level. A California man was forced to shorten his fence over a neighbor's complaints, and he got the perfect revenge. Jason Windus of Santa Rosa decided since his fence that he had built to keep his dogs in the yard was too high, he was going to do something about it. And this happened after the neighbor complained to City Hall saying, "Their fence is too high. We got to be able to see in there. It's an annoying sight, the big fence." So apparently, in this area, you're only allowed a 3-foot fence. So, to get full revenge on his neighbor for complaining on something that's kind of useless and probably outdated, Jason decided to set up 5 naked mannequins on chairs, on lawn chairs, and pointed them all looking towards the neighbor's house. Now, Windus kind of told the protesting neighbor that even if they do complain, this is just a statement for them. It's not about the business or the rest of the neighborhood. He even posted a sign, reserved seat for the nosy neighbor that complained about my fence to the city. Well, if mannequins aren't freaky enough, imagine having them staring at you 24/7 and knowing that you're always being watched. There was no public comment from the neighbor in regards to this. But Jason Windus says, look, he's just trying to have fun, trying to make light of the situation while getting a little bit of revenge. And it's just a naked mannequin party in his own yard. So if you have that nosy neighbor who keeps staring in your yard, it's a good idea. Go try and find some naked mannequins to throw in there. It's actually quite creative. Those who like the hippie lettuce can now go to a church in Philadelphia to learn about God, a little bit of personal sanctuary, and a lounge for medical marijuana patients. Yes, the Philadelphia Temple of Hemp and Cannabis teaches all about the greatness of the marijuana. The establishment describes itself as a gift shop, sanctuary, and a lounge for patients. It's a great place to chill and relax for those who want to hang out at the temple. It's a good place to get the message through while you're having a little bit of a blunt. Let's see how many adjectives we can use. Patrick Duff says the reason we opened this is that there was nobody providing a space for marijuana patients to come together and take their medicine socially. They read the law, they read it carefully, and nothing in the state of Pennsylvania prevents this group from doing this. Now, of course, there are the critics out there who say, marijuana should be banned and it should be illegal. Shouldn't be legalized in anything, but there are people who need it for their health concerns. So even though cannabis is still prohibited for the most part in Pennsylvania, for the medical reason, you can go get high in a church right now. So far, Philly THC opened up in early February, and so far has made about $12,000. So this guy's rolling in the dope. See what I did there? That's actually kind of funny. Not too bad. Here's something cool. A bird fossil has been found with an egg preserved inside of it. This thing is allegedly 110 million years old. It was found in northwest China. It's of a brand new species, and pardon me, I'm probably going to butcher this, but I'm going to try and read it. Avimaya schweitzerae. And apparently it's a brand new bird. It's not very big. It's actually quite tiny. But the fact that it has an egg in there, they know it's a female, obviously. And now they're trying to figure it out, what it's all about. What did it look like? So apparently the eggshell consists of two layers instead of one in normally healthy bird eggs, indicating the egg was retained too long inside the abdomen of the bird. The condition often occurs in living birds as a result of stress. In addition, the eggshell preserved in the Avimaya was extremely thin, thinner than a sheet of paper. But the fossil was crushed flat for obvious reasons. Extra small fragments were analyzed, and they took tissue samples to learn more about it and its DNA, which is always kind of cool. The results consist of nanostructures resembling those found in neornithine. Did I say that right? Neornithine eggs adapted for infection-prone environments. Dr. Jigme O'Connor, a co-author of the study, said the morphology would be expected for birds to bury their eggs, but this discovery also supports the hypothesis that a cuticle with protective spherules represents the ancestral condition of avian eggs. It's kind of cool. Kind of cool. So, if you check outside tonight, we're right at that supermoon, the last supermoon of 2019. So go outside and take it all in. And it coincides with the spring equinox, which is kind of cool because we're officially in spring now. The first two this year happened on January 21st. The second was February 19th, and now we got the third one happening right now. So if you're wondering what a supermoon actually is, it's a full moon that has reached the closest point to the Earth in its monthly elliptical orbit around the planet. As such, they appear larger and brighter in the night sky, though these changes are typically far too subtle to detect. You know what I always like is I always like going on social media, seeing the pictures people take, because I always wonder how you do that. Because my only camera that I have is on my iPhone, and the moon looks like a ping pong ball, a bright ping pong ball. So right now the moon is usually around 240,000 miles away from Earth, but when the supermoons happen, it actually comes within 223,300 miles. So that's about 16,700 miles in difference than where it normally sits. It's very cool. Very cool. And apparently, the full moon in March is sometimes called the worm moon because, according to folklore tradition, it occurs at a time when the frosty ground is melting and earthworms start to emerge. Yeah, I don't think that's happening up here right now because, Lord knows, I still got about 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground, although it is melting and melting fast. I went without a jacket today. That's how warm it was up here. So go out and enjoy the moon before it goes down, because we're not going to get another one in 2019. Final story of the night comes from our crazy, crazy friends in Florida County, Sarasota. You know we couldn't do this without a nice Florida story. Of course not. So, there's video of a Florida man getting attacked by a crazy squirrel gone nuts. Now, this just isn't an everyday squirrel. This was a squirrel raised by his neighbor. You know, we expect this to happen from some of the other animals in Florida. Pythons, boa constrictors, alligators, snakeheads. But a squirrel? Totally taking on a different weight class here, that's for sure. Totally taking it on. So, this is what happened. This gentleman is showing pictures of all the wounds on his arm because the neighbor's squirrel literally attacked him without provocation, bit him on the elbow, scratched him on the arm. Robbie Armstrong quoted on his Facebook, "Frickin' squirrel attacked me." The best part about it is the security cameras in the area caught the entire incident. So the squirrel, like I said, was raised by the neighbors when it was a baby, then released into the area. So it does have some tameness to it. But apparently he didn't like old Robbie. Maybe it was the music, the hat, the jeans. I don't know. Armstrong said he had enough. He chased him around and shot him with a BB gun about 10 times. But the squirrel is still alive. So he's got to be on the lookout now for a little bit of squirrely revenge. Armstrong also said he was fine, but that pesky squirrel is still roaming around. Now, the good news about it is squirrels are not rabid. They are almost never found with any type of disease like rabies. Best way to use them is to just leave them alone. But I have a feeling old Robbie isn't done with his revenge yet. Isn't done with the revenge. I have a feeling that he's going to try and make something happen here. No word if charges are being laid on the squirrely squirrel. Let's get to the thought of the day. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. So today's Thought of the Day is as follows. If you're a paranormal investigator, what makes you ghost hunt? Why do you do it? There's a lot of really cool answers in this tonight. This was a good one. So let's get to it. We're going to kick things off with Kelly, but we never know if it's Kelly or Kelly's beard. He says, for the tight shirts and the sweet hair. Or could it be so I can call myself a Demo Journal parapsychologist? Or one of these other made-up terms. Ouch. I think there was a shot over the paranormal bow right there by Kelly. Caden, we do it to help people or to understand. I'm not trying to prove to anyone what does or doesn't exist. I'm trying to understand for myself, and it's so interesting to witness things most never will get the opportunity to do so. Zuger is being Zuger here. From Reality Paranormal, he says, we do it for the money and the women. Why else? Well, I don't see very many ghost hunters getting rich here. I think your answer might be a little bit convoluted. But you got a nice goatee, so we're going to let that go. Gabe jumps in. I think ghost hunting is the most dangerous thing. You're exposing yourself to spirits for no good reason. I highly suggest not hunting ghosts, but go hunt for UFOs or Bigfoot. Yes, because aliens, especially the bad ones who are going to take you up on their ship, are just so much more pleasant than ghosts. And Bigfoot, well, it all depends on where you're finding them. You go near Mount St. Helens or something like that, you may be in trouble. Let's get to Marilyn. She says, we do it to show everyone that it's out there and it's real. Well, of course it's real. That's why we're looking into it. Just can't convince everybody that it's real, though. Karen, it started for me when I was 3 years old, told never to mention it. I never did until my hubby passed. The door was open, something came through. That was in 2004. He was so strong. Pardon me. My middle child then passed, and he was so strong. Now I have more questions. Who came and woke us all up between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m.? We were woken by what we don't know. I want to know if it was Matt himself or another spirit letting us know. He was found at 6 a.m. We have experienced something incredible after death communication. If people care to notice, there are many, many signs. That's a sad story. Sad story, but she's looking for answers for the right reasons. Sean says, it's in my blood. I've been doing this since I was 7 years old. Why wouldn't I continue? Brian, for the free Tim Hortons donuts and ritual sacrifice. Don't forget the ice caps. You can't have a donut without an ice cap, especially from Tim Hortons. Alfred jumps in, states, I ghost hunt for the love of it and to help people who don't know where to turn. Uncle Bob, hi Bob. He says, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Allison jumps in. I want to be an open line of communication with the other side by blending metaphysical and new technology, hopefully getting some validation in the process. Dawn jumps in. It's the wanting to know the unknown. As a child, I did not understand what I was experiencing. So in my adult life, I wanted to figure it out. Penman. I'm not a paranormal investigator or a ghost hunter because I don't like ghosts. They still find me sometimes. Feel free to send them on whenever or wherever you can find them. Cooper has the last word. You never know if it's Cooper or Cooper's beard. He says, as a paranormal emergency response team, only to bring clients peace back to their lives, and with education, keep it from ever happening again. So that is your thought of the day. And of course, we had all of the news brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. You can find all of our news put together by our news director, Captain Gail Shirk, at spacedoutradio.com. Just click on the news tab. She has the news prepped right then and there for you to read up on. We want to say a big thank you to Morgan Knudsen for coming on in for Ghosts of the Great White North. Both Morgan and Mike Morin, and maybe a special guest, will be with us back next on April 17th. That's the third Wednesday of the month when we do that show. Love having them on. Maybe we'll get some weird, strange stories. Tomorrow night on the show, yes, we're going to step back into the cryptid world. We're going to have a lot of fun with it because Robert Robinson is going to join us. We're talking cryptids all night long. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Remember, a good way to support this show as we leave the air and let you go on into your night, head to our website, spacedoutradio.com. Great way to support us is to go shopping at our store. Get yourself a t-shirt, a hat, beanie, hoodies, toques, pictures, socks, you name it, we got it. Great way to support what we do here on a nightly basis, and I see a lot of you are doing that right now and really, really do appreciate that. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everyone tonight listening in at home, in your cars, at work, in our chat rooms on Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers Club, on Spreaker, and on Revolution Radio, and at Twitter, at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Wherever you may be, thank you for taking the time to join us. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you, everyone, for telling your friends, doing your part to make us bigger and better every single night. Because together, my friends, let's say together, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a great week, everybody. I will be back tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Good night.